I'm Meg Carney, the founding director of the Solstice Master Fine Arts and Creative Writing program here at LaSalle University. This is the third in a series of 7 readings taking place here in Auburndale, Massachusetts, as part of our January 2025 10-day residency launch of our spring semester. So let's begin this evening's reading. First up, we will have creative nonfiction writer, Solstice alum, and graduate assistant Kassie Rubico, who will be introduced by fellow alum and graduate assistant poet Ellen Austin Lee. Next, we'll have poet, Solstice alum, this is a theme, I think, and Solstice Assistant Director, the fabulous Quintin Collins, who will be introduced by Kassie Rubico. And now you know who she is. Last, we'll have fiction and young people's faculty member, Audie Rule, whom I will introduce. So, Ellen.
Hello, everyone. Does my sound good? All right, great. I'm Ellen Austin Lee, a 2022 poetry alum of the Solstice MFA in Creative Writing program at LaSalle University and one of this residency's grad assistants. I'm honored to introduce the 2012 CNF Creative Nonfiction alum, fellow grad assistant, and fan favorite, Kassie Rubico. True. While I'm in my 3rd year as a winter residency grad assistant, Kassie has served in this position since, well, the Paleolithic times. No, just a joke. 11 winter residencies. A longstanding member of the Solstice community, Kassie's warmth, humor, and intellectual curiosity exemplify the Solstice spirit. Tonight, we are here to celebrate her literary achievements. As I read some of Kassie's essays preparing for this introduction, I was moved by the underlying emotional intelligence in her work. She is a storyteller who weaves keen observations of interpersonal behavior and humor to create a poignance that resonates long after the last words are read. The common denominator in all of her essays is meaning making, and the meaning is made more meaningful, if you will, by her humor. In an essay titled Playing Solitaire, published earlier this year in Solstice Literary magazine, Rubico writes about keeping company with her then 94-year-old mother as her physical and mental abilities decline. The daughter who strives for the delicate balance between keeping her mother safe and well cared for while preserving her sense of independence, honoring her sense of self. Rubico writes, I play solitaire while visiting my mother because the game allows me to stay still for a few hours a week and listen to her try to talk, which is all she wants from me these days, to listen. At 94 years old, Mom fights to find words that will help her remember the life she has lived, the life that has brought her here, forgetting the names of people she loves and the dinner she ate an hour before. Kassie Rubico is an essayist currently working on a memoir. Her work has appeared in such publications as Chicken Soup for the Soul, Guide to Culture, Creative Journal, Insight Academic Journal, Parnassus Literary Journal, River Review, Solstice Literary Magazine, and more. She has been a guest columnist for the Lowell Sun and a freelance writer for CoolRunning.com. She received an MA in creative writing and literature at Rivier College and an MFA in creative nonfiction in the Solstice program. She has taught writing and literature at various colleges and is currently teaching in the Changing Lives Through Literature program. Please help me welcome to the stage writer grad assistant extraordinaire and friend, Kassie Rubico.
Wow, gosh, it's always so hard to come up here and read after these introductions. Thank you, Ellen. That was so lovely. Thank you, Meg and Quintin and Ellen, for everything, you do for this program. Thank you, all of you. I was reminded today at lunch, sitting with the third and fourth semester students, how incredible this community is, and how smart this community is, and how talented this community is. And I am just honored every time I'm invited back. So, and I'm a little verklempt because my sister, I write about my family, and no one from my family, other than my beautiful daughter and my daughters, come to my readings. And my sister is back there, my oldest sister. I'm the youngest of 7. She is the oldest of 7. There are 13 years between us. She just surprised me. She came 4 hours from Maine. So, I thank you, Karen. I love you. But I'm nervous because there's someone here to witness what I write about, and I write about us. And, but the important thing to remember here is that these are my stories. They're not necessarily her stories. And that's the important thing to remember. So, Karen, I apologize if anything seems strange to you. I don't think it will. Yeah, so I'm working on a collection of essays that are interconnected, and they deal with, growing up in a place that is very limited, but very loving at the same time. And I think there's sometimes that's just hard to balance, and you don't know where the limit starts and ends and the love begins, and it gets confusing. But in the end, it's okay. I'm proof of that. So this is an essay titled Third Line, and it's early in the collection, so it's in a child's voice. I can't tell if Mom's messy penmanship is because she's left-handed like me, or because of the yellow pills that make her tired. She blames it on the teachers who struck her knuckles early in school. They insisted I write with my right, Mom said, and as a result came in with me on the first day of first grade. She's left-handed, she announced. And that was that. I never got hit with a ruler, and Mom never came back into my classroom. Instead, she naps during the day, which is why I battle my way down the narrow path behind our house, carrying a torn piece of paper towel. On it, 8 items are listed in Mom's shaky script. I hold the list tighter, twisting from the wiry limbs, springing from small oaks. I leap over large rocks, charging my way through the challenging terrain like a champion. I know this path by heart. Sometimes I keep running through the parking lot at the other end, past the front door of Cintro's Market, and far away from the third register. But today, I hit the pavement and stop. Bright yellow letters spell out, "No parking, please." I hop on each one, reciting the items on the list in order. N, parliaments. O, onion. P, spaghetti sauce. A, bread. Until I reach the end, E, Esther. I jump on that final E with both feet, hold it, and whisper, Esther. One more time, ending my ritual. My legs are short for an 8-year-old, but my memory is not, and I hate what I have to do. I round the corner at Plunkett's drugstore. Some days I stop there before going into Cintro's Market. Some days Mr. Plunkett lets me choose something from the candy counter while I wait for the pills that help Mom sleep. Today is not one of those days. It's Tuesday, and the parking lot in front is almost empty. Most people shop on Thursdays. I hate going to the market on that day, except once a month when Dad's pension check comes in the mail and Mom comes with me. On those days, we walk together up and down the aisles, and I push the carriage. The man at the deli knows Mom's name by heart, knows Mom's name, so they chat. While waiting, I rest my forehead against the front of the counter and blow breaths into the cool glass. With my fingertip, I draw funny faces in the condensation. When the deli man picks up the slab of American cheese, I secretly wish that he'll remember to sneak me a slice, which he always does when Mom is with me. But today she's sleeping and out of cigarettes, and I'm at Cintro's alone. I rehearse the list one more time before opening the door. It's easier to have the items memorized. I look up just in time to avoid bumping into Esther Makovich, who is stacking grocery carts at the entrance. I'm happy to see Esther, but I look away so I don't have to say hello. I put the list in my pocket and head for the produce. The faster I get all the items, the better chance I have that Esther will still be in front when I'm done. I'm about to pick up an onion when I hear a familiar voice coming from the canned goods aisle. The girl says something else, then I recognize her loud laugh. It's Shelley Harrison, a girl from my third grade class. She also shops at Cintro's Market, but with her mother and a younger sister. Both girls wear matching clothes and bright bows, and I bet neither of them has ever had a cavity. I cannot let Shelley Harrison see me shopping at Cintro's all by myself. So I duck behind a cardboard cutout of a green giant holding a can of corn. I consider my next move. I could hide in the bathroom until the Harrison girls skip their way right out of the store, but the deli man is the keeper of the bathroom key. I know this from when I shop with Mom. I also know that the bathroom is down a long, dark hallway and through a cold room with very large pieces of meat hanging on hooks. I decide to stay put, but with caution, because 4 of my 6 siblings have worked at Cintro's, and there is always a chance that someone will recognize me and wonder why little Cassie Dickinson is ducking behind a vegetable display. I decide that would be better than the Harrisons seeing me, so I wait until finally I see the matching family go through the first register and out the front door. I casually come out from behind the giant, but I must move quickly now. Mom will be awake soon and she'll be looking for some of the things on the list. And sometimes she worries when I take too long. Bread is on the other side of the store, but Hunt's tomato sauce is in one of the middle aisles. I forgot the onions. Spaghetti tonight. Why can't she put things in order? 2 packs of Parliaments. I'll get those at the register. I grab the loaf of Wonder Bread. It feels soft in my hands, which are too small for everything I need to carry. I should have taken a cart, but that takes time. When I go back to the spaghetti, I recognize the boy putting prices on boxes of pasta. He plays baseball with my older brother. I ignore his awkward smile and grab any box with my free hand, hoping it's the right one, but not caring enough to check. I have to get to the register before Esther leaves. She knows about the third line. The loaf of bread falls on the floor and the boy and I bang heads as we both go to pick it up. Blood rushes to my cheeks. Sorry, his voice cracks. I juggle the half-gallon of milk under one arm while picking up the bread without looking up at the boy. He goes back to pricing like none of this matters. I do my best run back to the onion aisle, pick up the first one without checking for soft spots, then make my way toward the register to see Esther is gone. The corner of the spaghetti box is pressing hard into the left side of my arm now, but I don't dare put anything down until someone comes to the register. Please be Esther. The boy looks over at me with a "can I help you" look, and once again I avoid eye contact. He doesn't know about the third line. Nobody does at first until the store shutters with a loud announcement, "Manager to the front, please." That's when I become petrified, caught in the middle of the aisle holding too many items, while the manager explains to the cashier that I can have the food on credit. The boy starts walking toward me. I want to scream at him to keep pricing. I also want to drop everything on the pale gray floor and run through the parking lot, back up the path, and straight to my house. but the thought of my mother waking up without the items keeps me trapped in the moment. She needs the parliaments. The boy heads toward the first register. The items have become weightless in my arms. I look down at the floor, then back up again. The boy motions for me to put the groceries on the conveyor belt. I have to tell him. I can't tell him, but I need to tell him. I need to let him know that I can't go through the first register, that I don't have money to pay for the items in my arms. I'm about to say the two words that I hate having to say, and for some reason I'm not mad at Mom for making me do this. Just at this fucking, my older brother's word, boy for being there. Third, before I finish, Esther Makovich appears like a lifeboat from the seasonal aisle. I'll ring her up, Bobby. Bobby shrugs and goes back to pricing, while Esther moves some broken boxes of cereal and opened cleaning products from the third line conveyor belt. This line is used for two things: storage and customers who can't pay. I've yet to see anyone go through it. How are you today? Esther asks. Her soft voice calms me. Rumor has it she's never been married and has no children of her own. She spends most of her days at Cintro's Market, and I'm happy for that because she understands that sometimes Mom gets tired. No parliaments today? Esther asks while totaling the items on an adding machine. Oh, I forgot, I say, without looking up, ashamed to have forgotten the first thing on the list. Esther smiles, grabs the cigarettes from the case behind her, adding $1 to the $7.95 already on the paper from the adding machine. She places the receipt on the conveyor belt for me to sign, then reaches under the register. Thank you, she says, handing me a lollipop. Say hi to your mom, she adds, tucking the signed receipt into the register drawer. I half smile up at Esther and head for the exit sign. With the brown paper bag bouncing on my right hip, I am a paying customer like everyone else. In a couple of days, maybe next week or next month, I'll be back at Cintro's Market with another list and no money. But today, I got through the third line without the Harrison girls seeing me, and without having to explain to a confused clerk that I can't pay for my groceries. I slipped the plastic wrapper from the cherry pop and tossed it and my list into the trash on the way out. Thank you. The poet's purpose is to create a world where the readers enter, experience, and exit with a better understanding of themselves and the world around them. Poet Quintin Collins serves all this, and sometimes with a side of sass. His poetry covers a wide range of topics, which speak volumes of Quintin's keen awareness of, well, to be honest, just about everything in life. His poems deal with place and race, faith and music, and what an expecting parent feels the first time they see their baby's hand on a sonogram. Quintin is not afraid to pose the important questions in his poetry and never assumes to have the answers. In fact, his vulnerability is what makes his poems so powerful. And I'm going to reference a poem and I'm going to read it. And I'm almost embarrassed to do this because I'm not going to do it justice. But in his poem, I Said So, A Generational Curse, recently published by ASP, Quintin grapples with the antiquated parenting philosophy that some of us of a certain age remember all too well. Here's the poem. I'm just going to read the beginning. Do as I say, not as I do. Do as I say, not as I do. Do as I do. The opposite, do, because I said so, because I'm the parent and you're the child. Familiar, right? But here's where Quintin comes in, because by the end of this poem, Quintin flips the familiar with an openness that calls to question a parent's his responsibility of being a role model. So now I'll read the end. And if you haven't read this poem, check it out on his website. It's wonderful. So this is the end of the poem. I do not explain, just yell. Do as I say, you yell. I thunder from the heavens without wisdom to gift you my ibis, to teach you how to count clouds from the ground. Daddy's sorry. Daddy's sorry. Daddy wagered faith. He could be the best daddy who ever daddied. For you, I'm sorry. Do as I say, because daddy fails sometimes when he does what he does. So, but here's what Daddy, or our awesome Assistant Director Quintin Collins, actually does. He has two collections of poetry. His first, The Dandelion Speaks of Survival, a finalist for the 2020 Alice James Award and the 2021 Sheila Margaret Martin Book Prize. His second collection, Claim Tickets for Stolen People, was selected by Marcus Jackson as winner of the Journal's 2020 Charles B. Wheeler Poetry Prize and honor book for the Black Caucus of the American Library Association's 2023 Best Poetry Literary Award. Quintin has had several, and I mean several, publications including Siderail Magazine, Superstition Review, Glass, a Journal of Poetry, Solstice Literary Magazine, and many, many more. Quintin has had multiple Best of the Net nominations. He was the winner of a Pushcart Prize, the 2019 Atlantis Award for the Poets Billow, and he was a finalist for the 2020 Redivider Beacon Street Prize. He is poetry editor of Salamander, and he is the assistant director of the Solstice MFA program. And finally, a wonderful role model for his 5-year-old daughter, Harper. Please give him a warm welcome.
Introductions are always so awesome because they're this like world in which you feel really seen, but then you're like, I have to go up there and live up to that. That's really hard. Actually, I'll put this here. So I'm going to warn you up front. I get all my bad habits from Ian. So if you see any of those while I'm reading, Ian taught me. For those of you students who are thinking about who to choose for a mentor. All right, so I'm going to start with a few poems from my second book, Claim Tickets for Stolen People, and then I'm going to transition into some new stuff. And then I'm going to make a return to Claim Tickets in an interesting way. So this first poem is called Generation Snowflake, and I figure given the weather, this is pretty apt. This is how they like us when we float down from the sky, when they can catch us in their palms. Let the heat melt us to water, cold a concession to enjoy our presence. They tolerate only if we leave our ice, if we lie on the pavement. Do not obstruct their view. Do not gather into banks on their roads. Do not travel sideways. This is how they like us. Predictable, malleable, light. If they can gather several of us packed together into a ball they can throw for fun, that's when they like us. When we only powder their Christmas. When we do not blizzard or lake effect, do not accumulate more than an inch, do not grow into a bomb cyclone, do not rush upon them as an avalanche. They like us when they can carve us with skis and snowboards, when they don't have to bend their backs to shovel us off their property. This is how they like us. So I'm going to read a couple of poems that are contrapuntal sonnets that are all based on this idea of taking the Black characters who inherited the mantle of Captain America being in conversation with Barack Obama. Not only do I like these, with the new movie coming out where there is a Black Captain America, there's a lot of crying about that. And I have to read these to remind them why I don't care that they're crying that there is a Black Captain America. So this time around, I'm only going to read it one way where all the lines are going across, and I'm going to read two. So I'm going to start with Isaiah Bradley in conversation with Barack Obama. And Isaiah Bradley was the first Black Captain America, and he's also had a role now in the film world. I too gave America residence in my body. I draped the flag across my skin. I held the shield for all my dead brothers. And look at its weight on my bones. They count my grief as gray hairs. How the mantle stole my years, how I cut my tongue on the stars, how the stripes bound my fists. And what remains of this Black man branded a legend? In my dreams, I revisit the blood I paid to be a symbol, the sins I hid, tucked into the uniform like a tie, like my ancestors, tucked beneath the soil and my feet. I don't fight to covet this dirt or the borders that claim it. A White House or monuments mean nothing to my name. I'm history you don't have to dredge off the ocean floor. I'm flesh vivisected to show this country a mausoleum of stolen people. I'm willing to die for its freedoms. Kneel before its polyester. Believe I can salvage these tatters. Make a state of my body, pin a star to my chest, call me captain. And so the cool thing about what I enjoy about this new phase of Marvel media, as much as a lot of it's not great, is that they're actually doing a really good job with getting at the heart of what Sam experiences in the comics, stepping into a role where he has to be the embodiment for a country that continues to do everything against him and people like him. And as much as I have a lot of problems with Barack Obama and what he did during his presidency, this book in a lot of ways has a few poems that speak to like me reckoning with what that meant for me in this country, getting to vote for the first time and getting to vote for him. But also this idea of not only are the ways that he compromised, but that he was compromised while trying to be in this role and understanding what that meant as a Black man and the first to be president. So this next one is Sam Wilson in conversation with Barack Obama. And so Isaiah Bradley was the first. Sam is technically not the most recent, but the most recent who was prominent. And Sam got the mantle when Steve Rogers was suddenly turned old and had to pass it along. And while Steve was very happy to give him that honor, it wasn't exactly easy to take up. Another old white man tires of his office. He threw America like a weapon, liberty slung on his back so he could pose. Hands on hips, chest puffed, eyes to the sky. Now the chainmail of his war slumps his stature. He bestows the shield and a world on fire into my hands. This mantle of savior, as if I didn't already have a name, as if my wings never took flight. How many teeth shattered as this metal launched into a mouth? How much blood did he rinse from the stars and stripes before he conscripted this burden to me? The Sentinel of Liberty, Captain. These monikers don't make me Avenger, more American than Black in America. I know this history when I take up the shield, that I'm expected to save everyone when the next skyscraper collapses. When I wear his costume, confine my body in red, white, and blue, I must emerge from his remnants, stand upon the rubble, head high, the latest shield for America. And now for some poems that have been finding life in my notes app, because I am in the midst of submitting a book out, and I'm in this weird place of sometimes wanting to write things, but they're not being written toward a project. So things happen. I'm just consuming what's going on in the world. And sometimes I just like to let that guide me. And it's sometimes freeing to not be within a project, sometimes freeing to say that there are poems that are practice. They are not going to go anywhere. They may never get published, but they are practice and they are good practice. So the first of these is called deferred maintenance, and it's going to kind of relate to the second as well. And for those of you who don't know, if you ever in a place you're living notice that all the door frames are sticking, it likely means that there's a problem with the foundation. The door bangs the frame, I lift it, ease it to close, not for seasonal swelling or settling as time embeds in the wood. No, the origin is beneath my feet. And the next door I must brace, root to pull as the frame claws the paint free. What to do? As I heave another door into place, another sticking door out of place, I know the foundation is what fails. But fixing the beginning of everything is hard. Instead, I get a plane, shave the corners of every door until every door is no more. And the house is open, so open that I can watch myself move from room to room, note the direction the floor angles toward the ground, toward oblivion. So I say this for the students who are in the social action track, and just in general, as we think about what our writing can do in the world, as Meg brought into the space and orientation as well. It's really hard to try to fix the beginning of everything, but it's work that we are all very committed to doing. But the first thing we have to do is start to look at what we're actually doing in that space. So this next poem is called A Society. Did you know that the detergent bottle floating in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, that one carefully laying to rest in a recycling bin, is a load-bearing bottle? If you exhume it from evidence of our many failures, another bottle, once vessel for rum and good times, will evaporate from its post against the wall in the alley where cellophane whirls and clings to a dumpster, which neighbors a napkin some busy man couldn't be bothered to usher into the trash. If the rum bottle should vanish, so too disappears a bullet's careless careening past lockers, textbooks, the bologna sandwich, someone's mother nestled into the lunchbox with chips. If a bullet gains a conscience, relays to its trigger to relay to a hand that some lessons should come easy, like death in old age instead of second grade, then the politicians must unhitch their greed, resign from sentences that cannot laminate with truth. By now, the whole of a society shudders. Also load-bearing. The woman on the Arborway who doesn't have a story but needs help. If you pluck her from rush hour traffic, sit her in your car and deliver her to a home. And another, and another, and another, and no, you do not worry the details or bootstraps. She may gain a story. You may gain a story if you wedge banned books between the joists, lob them through the windows of each government that exercised retellings of our compromises in humanity. This is how everything collapses. And here we work so hard to preserve our way of living, our liberty, our scroll past suffering of our own making. In the rack and dust, what appears is a chorus of children falling, like the bombs that once fell on their heads. But they fall into the arms of mothers who never forget the wonder that they once held before they too could swim in apathy and imagine that a detergent bottle is just a bottle. Right. So shifting gears a little bit, I've been reading a lot of June Jordan lately, which, I could say June Jordan was inspirational on that side of things, but she does some amazing love poems too, which is like something I don't feel like is talked about widely enough. Of course, a lot of her work is being shared now in the present moment, but I really do enjoy her approach to them. It also has the same kind of feel as Wanda Coleman, so I wanted to write something that kind of dug in the same way. And with Ian's reading the other night, I figured I would read this one. So this is called Winning the Argument. And this is a good one for folks who are in or have ever been in long committed relationships and you understand what that's like. Once, when we were just engaged, a preacher told me marriage is picking battles. But what he know about the way you more a wrist in your hip to cock an elbow, other elbow kissing the courts as you hunch over the counter. Eyes stretch wider than your ears for my rebuttal, butting your what then? Against my nope and nah and hold on a second until Google is done abiding my ego. You know it ain't about being right. It's about being correct. That we got to find a fuss and fight about something or other if we no longer need to fight for each other. We agree on that. And that winning ain't winning by fact, just who's got more traction left in their grin, who's going to close the gap between us first, the only counterpoint worth considering between our lips. That's how you end a fight. You have to be the first one who like makes it unserious and says like, now give me a kiss. All right, and so for my final poem, so thank you all for listening. I don't know if you've been counting, but I didn't give you a number up front because that's one habit I didn't learn from Ian. This is a poem called Stay Black And so in returning to claim tickets, as many of you will find out as you are working through this program and writing later, you will write things that will not make it into the book. Some of those things are actually brilliant for your own or other perspective, but they just don't fit the project. And so this is a poem that I really enjoyed for what I was doing with it, but it ultimately tread too much ground that I was treading throughout the book. And so the basis for the title Stay Black And is there is a phrase that is often uttered in the Black community, stay black and die. The idea being that one of the most important things we can do in life is hang on to our cultural understanding of ourselves. It's often been uttered in some rap songs, most notably if you're a fan of Talib Kweli and Mos Def. They say there's so much to life when you stay black and die. Now, the thing about poets especially is we are very attentive to language. So the first time that I heard someone say, stay black and live, was at a poetry reading for some local slam poets in Chicago. And I love the idea of flipping this expectation and this prophecy of death on its head to say, not only should we embrace who we are and hang on to it, but we should also live. So again, this is called Stay Black In, and this is the last poem. And thank you all for listening. This poem can't hold a casket. Our arms already clutch bomb pops, beef and nacho cheese poured into a bag of hot flamings, fat pickles. This poem contains no death. No, we give it back to the conquerors, to the colonizers. We trade every whip and bullet ripped body for $1 of generational wealth. We leave a wealth of funeral flowers for the oppressors, a rose forest in exchange for rose-scented perfume on grandma's Sunday best. No more roses. Risen lords, no death. All the death, we swap it for a heaven where we don't have to earn an eternal life. We gain entry because our daddy and granddaddy went there first and tithe every week. Every weakness, we give it back. All of it. Every eulogy and dirge handed over for games of go fish and spades. For every amazing grace, we take crucial conflict replays tumbled out the car windows down Lakeshore Drive in summertime. For lost time, we take full ride scholarships. For slave ships and everyone who jumped, we take more. No more black pendulums. We know the time. And the only thing we have to do is stay black and stay black. There's so much to life when we just stay black. There's so much to life, but no death left. No, we returned it all to Macy's, spent all the money on the homecoming celebration. And won't you come celebrate with us? We have a pan of chicken from Sharks, and Auntie made green beans, potatoes, and bacon, and Daddy made his famous cheesecake. Look, it's our favorite cousin. Grave dirt dusted off his lapels, and ain't he handsome? His mama bought him that suit just for today. Just for today. Ain't he so alive? Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow.
Okay.
Audie Rule writes young adult and middle grade novels, including Nell and the Nether Beast, Why Would I Lie, Hearts of Ice, The Hidden Twin, and Strange Sweet Song, which won the 2016 New Hampshire Writers Project Literary Award for Outstanding Young Adult Books, as well as the Vermont College of Fine Arts Hope Mifflin Clarion Prize. Audie earned her MFA at Vermont Center for Fine Arts and Vermont College, for the Fine Arts, and has led workshops throughout New England for groups that include 826 Boston, the VCFA Young Writers Network, and New Hampshire Writers Project. Her work has appeared in Hunger Mountain Journal of the Arts and the New Hampshire Pulp Fiction Anthologies. Native of my adopted home state of New Hampshire, she also contributes essays and features to New Hampshire Magazine. Here are some fun facts that I learned on Audie's website, and note that I've added my own editorial comments to this list. She earned her undergrad degree in voice and is a stunning soprano soloist destined to be lead singer in the Solstice MFA program's band that I've been dreaming about for 19 years now. Audie likes to collect things, sort of odd, wacky things, such as Garfield's, Disney's Robin Hood memorabilia, and biographies of Napoleon. Audie can't ride a bicycle. She's also a vegetarian who does not like to eat green beans. I found that out in the kitchen today. She has never had a cavity. She kind of like those girls in the grocery store.
I know that's right.
She doesn't have her ears pierced. The thought actually terrifies her, yet oddly, she's not afraid of needles, as she does have tattoos. If you want details about said tattoos, see Audie. Like me and the chosen few among us in this room, Audie is left-handed. Can openers are our common enemy. She loves writers and cats, not necessarily in that order. Her love of cats is not limited to sweet, cuddly felines. She likes even, to quote, the scraggly, bitey ones. Same goes for chickens and parrots. I'm not sure if she means that she also loves scraggly, bitey chickens and parrots, but I suspect that she does. She's a devoted volunteer for a couple of animal rescue organizations, and she is a human mother to, I quote her again, 2.5 warring cats, a macaw, a magician, and a small but mighty flock of chickens. Audie's love of scraggly, bitey cats is made manifest in her latest novel, Nell and the Nether Beast. Having read the book and learned what I have about Audie, I suspect this fantasy novel is partly autobiographical. She does, after all, A, live with a magician, and B, 2.5 warring cats, see above. Her 12-year-old Nell has been working toward becoming a junior volunteer at her local animal shelter, a vocation not supported by a single person in her life. But Nell is sent off with her big sister for the summer to help her Aunt Jerry's at her Aunt Jerry's country bed and breakfast. But just before her departure, Nell encounters the Nether Beast, which often looks like a cat, but is decidedly not a cat, and is definitely a bitey, scraggly creature known to seep brownish green sludge from its ears and throw up on people's shoes. The Nether Beast actually brought to mind a line from Jedediah Barry's novel, The Manual of Detection. A hat is a snake, is a lamp, is a child, is an insect, is a clothesline hung with telephones. You get the idea. In seconds, the beast can be just about anything, but mainly it's out of control. Turns out Nell is the only person who can put up with and love a Nether Beast. And what follows is Nell's hilarious adventure to save Aunt Jerry's B&B and keep the nether beast as her pet. I'll let you read the book to find out what happens. You will not be disappointed, as Audie Rule is a master storyteller with a comic's sense of timing and a magician's talent and imagination. Please offer her a warm solstice welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Meg, for that introduction. So now you know all there is to know about me. Thank you to Kassie and Quintin for those absolutely incredible readings that we just heard. And thanks to Ellen for all that you do, and Meg, obviously, for all that you do too, and to everybody here for this wonderful, warm welcome I've gotten this week. It feels like coming home to a place that I have never been before. So tonight, I'm going to read, well, last time I read something a little heavy about a magical space cat that kills people. So tonight I'm going to lighten it up a little bit and be, was it fabulously vulnerable? Was that the term? That wasn't it, but radically vulnerable and fabulously vulnerable. This is not published. Part of this was published a few years ago, but this part has not been published and is kind of new, and you're going to be the first people to hear it. So this is a novel called Shoes. It takes place in the Cinderella universe 20 years later. I'm going to read 2 short chapters, and this is a farce. It's centered on the shoemaker's ball, which is going to be held at the palace. Because it's a farce, there are a lot of characters sort of running around and getting into predicaments, a lot of points of view. I'm going to read chapters 10 and 11. So we're in the middle of a lot of stuff happening already. But what you need to know, in the first chapter, there's a young man whose fairy godmother has given him a magical disguise to wear to the ball and some helpful animal companions. But things have gone horribly wrong. And then the next chapter, there's a young woman who's desperate to go to the ball. So she stole a pair of these really valuable shoes from her friend Gwendolyn. Then she felt guilty and ended up just giving them away to a stranger and is now feeling guilty about that. Chapter 10. The body in the street lay in shadow, half hidden by the vegetable crates that had broken its fall. A robust egg that had swelled on its head was almost black with bruising. Half a dozen rats lined the wall behind the body, peering, their beady eyes filled with something that resembled either concern or hunger. It was hard to tell. Smelling salts? Suggested a tiny, raspy voice. Lick his face? Offered another. Bite his nose? Bite his fingers? Bite all his squishies? A clatter of footsteps at the end of the street and cries of "thief" quieted the conversation for a moment. Then another rat voice, deep with wisdom, ventured, "Remember that little sparkly one with the wings? Might know what to do, her. Let's all think about that one." The beady glints in the shadows winked out as the rats closed their eyes in concentration. Before very long, the utter focus of rat minds being a rare and precious thing, the kingdom's newest fairy godmother flashed into existence on top of a rotten crate. "Hello?" She put a fist on her hip and regarded the empty street. "Did someone call me? Over here, sparkly one." Pearl twirled, squinting into the darkness at the little furry forms. "Oh, this is Backaway, right? You must be the helpful animal friends I called forth to aid that grumpy red-haired boy." The largest helpful animal friend stepped forward. "Yeah, well, about that." It squatted on its haunches and gestured to the body in the street with a dirty paw. "I guess he's dead." "Sorry," said another rat. "Can we eat him?" asked another, hopefully. Pearl crossed her arms. Dead? You've been helping him on his quest for an hour and he's dead? What kind of, hang on, what are you things? Are you supposed to be rats? Is that a philosophical question? The big rat asked slowly. Pearl put a chubby hand to her forehead. All right, I can fix this. I fail to see how, the big rat said. Won't be many folks lining up to marry a dead guy. It's not about marriage to any old nobody, the fairy godmother snapped, pressing Beau's wrist with her thumb. It's about true love. Oh, here, he's got a pulse. Well, that's good. Oh, true love, a rat wheezed. Well, pardon us rats for not knowing about true love like you superior humans. Pearl let go of Beau's wrist, which fell heavily into a splatter of mushy carrots. You should at least be aware that true love requires a pulse. I'm counting on you, rats, to get the job done. The big rat crossed his mangy front legs. And how exactly are we supposed to do that? Sing songs? Sew him a dress? Beau's fairy godmother rubbed her temples. Well, she said quietly, you could, perhaps, begin by explaining to me why he is not only unconscious in the street, but also naked. Naked? Asked the rat with the milky eye. As in naked, Pearl barked. As in he is not wearing any clothes. The rat with the long pink scar tentatively raised its paw. Oh, for the love, I don't have time for this. Ask your mom. Right now, we've got to figure out where his masked swordsman disguise has gone. Pearl sighed. And we can stop looking at that. She waved her hand, and a burlap sack nearby rippled to life. The magic was a bog standard enchantment of the kind used to make sprightly brooms dance and dishes wash themselves. But the grubby burlap sack took a little more convincing than other objects. After a few more increasingly swishy swishes from the wand, the sack lurched upright at last, vomiting its cargo of rotten cabbages onto the street and swaying drunkenly. Get a move on, Pearl snapped at it. Rearrange your stitches and clothe him. The sack folded its top third backwards in what looked amazingly like a massive eye roll and proceeded to bristle and poke its seams, reconfiguring itself into a dirty, cabbage-scented tunic. Then it staggered over to Beau's prostrate form, dropped itself at his head, and proceeded to slide laboriously and punctuated by heaving jerks onto his body. The effect was rather like an anaconda swallowing a small deer. That's the most disturbing thing I've seen all day, said the rat who lived in the privy behind the butcher shop. Pearl pointed at the group of them. Now, you rats, I've got a job for you. Well, la-di-da, sang the biggest rat. We've got stuff to do, other than be compelled by you. Pearl rolled her eyes. Nobody ever has this problem with mice. Why don't you go bother them then? Asked the biggest rat. I ate a mouse once, the bakery alley rat said. Beak first. Okay, listen, no, you didn't, Pearl said. And I can't ask random mice or any other creatures because for some reason you're the ones that came to the spell. Now I need your attention, all of you. She exhaled and a haze spread over the street, glowing faintly. The rats blinked. Thank you, she said. Now listen up. We don't want just anybody parading around in a magical masked swordsman costume. Not to mention the Council of Fairy Godparents would have absolute kittens if a fairy-created object were to fall into hands it wasn't intended for. My career would be over. And she gulped, probably, very probably my life as well. Do you understand? It is vital that we find that masked swordsman's costume. Is that clear? The rats blinked. A pink nose twitched. So, Beau's fairy godmother continued, I need you to spread out. That's what you rats are good at, right? Roll up your drain pipes or whatever you do. Get your beady eyes and your squishy little ears all over this city and find that costume. As soon as you do, call me and be quick about it. With a shimmery pop, she snapped her fingers. The rats went scurrying. The little fairy godmother crossed her arms and squinted at the unconscious young man. You'd have to be in the middle of the street, wouldn't you? She said, it's not like I can just leave you here to get run over and squashed. Sighing, she grabbed one of Beau's ankles and gave it a tremendous tug, shifting the body just a bit. But she was stopped by a peculiar sound, a scrape whoosh that seemed to be coming closer. Chapter 11. The mirror had been Veronica's several great-grandmothers. Once gilded, still heavy, it hung on the wall next to the door in the humid room Veronica occupied over the laundry. The mirror was dark and ornate, out of place amongst the simple wooden furniture and patched fabrics that surrounded her in the sanctuary. Her dim reflection wasn't particularly useful in terms of checking for stray spinach between her teeth, but it showed her a dreamlike version of herself that she was fond of, soft and free from flaws, her cheeks rouge pink, not steam flushed, a diamond sparkle at her neck in place of a string of glass beads, and her high, pointed chin setting the fashion, not following it. The Veronica in the reflection was from another world, one that she ruled. Right now, the real-life Veronica looked rather worse than usual. She had been crying and running through the streets, guilt-stricken, and had not even changed her clothes, which were sweaty from all the guilt. Stupid, stupid thing to do, she snapped, wringing her hands. She often stood before the mirror and spoke to herself. Or was she speaking to the thing itself? I could have snuck them back in. Left them on the doorstep, left them anywhere, the tavern, the footbridge, the middle of the square. They would have found their way back to her. Someone would have returned them. But no. She scrutinized the blurry face in front of her, which was not so much scrutinizing her back as it was scowling as if in disgust. No, Veronica murmured, I had to give them to a stranger. Now they could be anywhere. And what will happen to Gwendolyn? The last thought she uttered with a strange intentionality, as though hanging the words in the air where anyone could look at them was proof of their truthfulness. But her reflection sneered back at her. It knew, as did Veronica, that her concern for her old friend lived on her tongue, not in her heart. She ought to feel bad for Gwendolyn, and so she did. Poor Gwendolyn. Poor Gwendolyn. But in her depths, Veronica was not thinking about Gwendolyn, but the mysterious masked stranger. What would he make of the exquisite shoes so roughly thrusted? Shoes are very important in this world. It's the Cinderella world. What would he make of the exquisite shoes so roughly thrust at him by someone who was clearly not a shoemaker? Would he realize she had stolen them? Most importantly, when the dust had settled and he was no longer captivated by the proximity of her charms, would he reconsider having asked her to accompany him to the ball? How would I ever meet Prince Edgar then? Veronica asked her reflection, which asked her the same question at the same time. She often felt the reflection in her grandmother's mirror was far more worthy of His Highness than the Veronica in the flesh. She'd spent years chasing that soft flawlessness, every slight improvement to her posture, every expensive skin cream she couldn't afford, every new hairbrush. Her reflection always seemed to stare at the results with disapproval. And she never showed the mirror her washerwoman's hands. You're so close, Veronica, sweetheart, she told herself. So what if this masked knob has some reservations? Wait until he gets a load of this. And she swished her gleaming hair, flashed her beautiful teeth, and looked down her nose at her reflection. You'll pull him apart like tugging the lace from a knee-high boot. It wasn't a kind thing to think, and something itched at the back of Veronica's brain. She had always considered herself a kind person, after all, but there was power in the haughty, murky gaze that met her own. And no matter how well groomed the people of Backaway were, no matter what possessions they acquired or which accents they adopted, power was something that couldn't be faked. You had it or you didn't. And even the richest pickpocket or most famous poet or president of the largest union, if they were Baccawarian, didn't really have power. Not the kind of power that drenched the palace of Bootstrap, not the kind of power that Veronica thirsted after. She eyed her small, tidy room with contempt. In moments like this, Veronica considered her grandmother's mirror the only nice thing she possessed. In truth, Veronica owned several nice things. She had 2 pairs of good leather shoes. Under the small window sat a worn but serviceable writing table with attractive turned legs. And while Veronica, like everyone else in Backaway, repeatedly reused, resewed, and repurposed scraps of linen to within inches of their lives, her going-out dresses were whole and immaculate. In further truth, her grandmother's mirror wasn't nice at all. In fact, it was fairly evil. Thanks.
Thank you, Audie Rule, Quintin Collins, Kassie Rubico. Can we have one more round?